It's the Eagle Community Television Forum with your host, Gary Shorman.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Forum here on Eagle Community Television. It's good to have you watching along. You know, exciting things happen in Kansas, but one of those that is happening right now is a new football coach at the University of Kansas. His name is David Beaty. And Coach, good to have you on our program.
And I appreciate you having us, man. It's been fun being out here in Hayes today.
Now, you've been making a tour around Kansas. You're going to be visiting different places. Did you sign up for this?
Yeah, I did. I actually did. You know, one of the things that when I was talking to Dr. Zinger when we got here, one of the questions he had was, how are you going to turn this thing around? And it was real simple. You've got to do it by re-engaging this state into KU football. And you got to do that by getting out amongst the people in this great state and making them understand that that's their university and allowing them to have the pride for it that they once had and being able to get out there and go see them.
One of the things I was impressed with, not only your energy that you have, but the fact that you're here, that you're making a trip around Kansas to encourage that, because it is the Kansas football team.
Right. You know, I think the big thing for us is if we're going to earn that support, we need to come to you. We need to get out there and let you see us in your towns, in your communities, so you understand that we are committed to this great state and being able to recruit the kids in the state. I think one of the most valuable things for us is to be able to keep the best talent in the state of Kansas right here in Kansas. I've talked at length about our walk-on program and how we want to build a great walk-on program, and we hope to base that with Kansas kids. And in order to do that, we've got to touch the north, the south, and the east and the west, and we're going to try to do that one fan at a time and one coach at a time, one player at a time.
Now, you have a lot to do. Short amount of time because football season's coming up this fall. What do you do when you start out like this? Because you've come in from another program, you're coming into a state, you're not new, because we'll talk about that in a second, but what do you start out doing? What's the first thing you want to do?
Well, I think the first thing you got to do is you got to jump in and kind of pick up recruiting where it was when you got there. So, because you don't have a lot of time before the time you get hired, and then you have National Signing Day. So you're basically starting fresh on what most people have had maybe 2 years head start on you on. So that's a majority of it. And then the other thing while you're doing that is trying to hire the best staff in the country. That is probably the biggest challenge, is being able to monitor and manage those two things. But we feel like we did really good in both those areas. I'm really excited about the staff that we brought. I think it's second to none. We've got some fine men here, the right men, to be able to help us kind of get this thing back to where we can call it something we can be proud of. And then same thing with the class. We were very proud of it.
I know when KU was looking for the coach, there was a short list of some of the best upcoming coaches in the country. You were on that list. Why'd you choose Kansas?
Well, I will say this. I'm humbled to be mentioned with some of those guys that were on that list, because there were really some terrific men that were considered for the job. And I'm honored that I was chosen for that position. But for me, it was very easy. You know, Coach Manziel brought us back here back in 2008. And the second we drove onto that campus, my wife and I, we fell in love. I mean, it is just a beautiful place. And not just the place, but the great people of this state, they just open their arms to you. It's a great blue-collar, hard-working, very respectful and humble state that just brings people in. And when he called back and asked us if we would be interested, it was a no-brainer.
You were on the sideline back during some exciting times at KU football. Remember an Orange Bowl game with some excitement, a Missouri game that was exciting. There was one play there we were talking about before that probably the biggest play maybe in KU football history. You were on the sideline when that was happening.
Yeah, it was. We were playing Missouri, and it was a 4th and 7. It was the famous catch that Kerry Meyer makes in the end zone down there. And it was a 4th and 7, and I recall Todd coming up to me waiting for the call, and I was the guy that was relaying it from the box. And we called a play called Menu 3, which was an old curl flat play. And as soon as I called the play, Todd looked at Kerry and said, hey, the safety's been driving on it all day. If he does that, you just take off right down the middle of the field. And I remember going, hey, easy now. We can't just be drawing stuff up. I mean, there's 75,000 people here. This is 4th and 7. And he looks at Kerry and he says, if he bites, you take off deep. And I'll be darned if that guy doesn't bite. And he takes off deep, and Todd throws it to him, and the rest is history. He came off to the sideline. I don't know if he remembers this, but he slapped my hand and he said, told you.
Well, you look at that. That play probably is one of the keys that people like to see on the big scoreboard, because it's indicative of what fans want at KU football, and that's what you're trying to build. One of the things that's going to be key to that, you mentioned at the program, are your assistant coaches, because you have to have a good team on your team to make that happen. Tell me a quick story about them.
Well, first of all, I mean, that is the key. This thing's going to get turned because of those men and the kids that we're going to bring into that program. I'm very fortunate. I think one of the guys that doesn't get talked about enough in our program is probably the most important guy, which is Janae Jackson. He is our strength coach. We took him from Indiana University, and he happened to be our corners coach back in the Orange Bowl years and the Insight Bowl years. Had some pretty good guys. Chris Harris, Aqib Talib, Daryl Stuckey, all those guys he coached back in the day as a coach on the field. His love and passion's always been in the weight room. He followed that back in Indiana, and we stole him away from Coach Crean and those guys and got him right back here to KU. And the thing that I love about our entire staff is every one of those men were at really good places. They didn't have to leave, but they really love this place, and they see the vision, and they want to be a part of it. And man, I couldn't be proud of our staff, and couldn't be more pleased with who we were able to bring to University of Kansas.
Your history of coaching, you started out, you were a wide receiver. You started 4 years, I think, as wide receiver, and then went into the coaching ranks 3 years at Texas A&M and doing that. Johnny Manziel, Johnny Football, what was it like being around coaching him, and what does that kind of bring to your energy in this program?
You know, he was a lot of fun. He and Todd remind me of each other. They really do. They're both from Central Texas. Both those guys were very mobile quarterbacks who were very, very smart. Both of them were very intelligent guys, but they were both very charismatic in the public, and I mean, they were terrific leaders. Johnny was a great leader. You know, Johnny gets a little bit of a bad rap. That guy is he's got a heart of gold. I mean, the things that people don't see are the things that he does for people that are less fortunate than him every day. And that's a shame, because, man, that tells a different story about Johnny Manziel than some people know. But I'll say it, and I'll yell it from the rooftop. He's a dear friend of mine, and he changed me and my family's life.
Well, when you take a look at programs that work, quarterbacks are important. That was one of the questions that came up. Todd Reesing made a big difference at KU when he was here. Do you have that kind of quarterback on your program?
You know, I think we will. You know, I'm pleased with the guys that we already have on campus. We've got some guys that we really do think will fit nicely in our system. We also recruited a couple of guys to come in and help us. A couple of kids, one from Florida down there in Vero Beach, and Carter Stanley. Ryan Willis from right down the street there in Kansas City. Both those kids, I think they lost a combined 1 game between the two. I think the fact that that guy knows how to win as the major leader in your program is important for us. Both those guys, state title holders. I mean, those guys know what championships look like, and when you're going to put that guy at the forefront like we do in our offense, it's important that he can show the rest of the team what winning looks like.
Coach, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk about the spring break, that's the spring game that's coming up, and maybe a little bit about some of your recruits that are coming in.
You bet.
Hang with us. Our guest is Coach Beaty, Kansas University's new head football coach. Back with more after this.
Hayes Med is your first and best choice for healthcare. They're the only facility providing tertiary level services in this region. With more than 70 physicians and 26 specialties ranging from heart, orthopedic, spine care, cancer, obstetrics and gynecology, wound care, rehabilitation and surgery, including the Da Vinci robotic surgery, Hayes Med is your comprehensive health provider for people throughout Western Kansas. Hayes Med, helping people be healthy.
It's a beautiful day in our super high-speed internet great customer service neighborhood. Like you, this is where we live. In fact, our company is employee-owned, so it's our goal to improve the quality of life for everyone in our community by delivering faster, more reliable internet, clearer, more feature-laden phone service, quality TV channels, all with the level of customer service you'd expect from people who are your neighbors. Eagle Communications. Our community connected.
Welcome back to the second half of our forum here on Eagle Community Television. It's great to have guests like Coach Beaty with us. If you have an idea or a question you'd like us to ask you along the way with some other guests, let us know. We'll get them on the program. Our program is a forum, and you can reach me at gary.shorman@eaglecom.net or on Facebook under ECTV Forum. Again, our guest is the new head football coach at the University of Kansas. Name's Coach Beaty. David, good to have you here. And we went into the break talking a little bit about the spring game coming up. It's April 25th. What do you expect to show in a spring game? First year as head coach, new players, kind of a new program. What can you show in that game?
I think the big thing for us is just to try to provide some excitement for our fans, for our students, just for our university and, you know, the people in the state of Kansas. I think the big thing for us is obviously in spring games, I mean, you know, you're not going to show everything that you're going to be doing in the fall. So we need to be able to learn to do basic things like block and tackle. So you're going to see that. You're going to see guys that are able to just play pure football and play technique in that spring game. And that's important for us. That's the foundation. We're not going to go past that until we get good at it. So that's kind of what you can expect. Hopefully we can put the ball in the air a few times and make it exciting.
You've been out on the recruiting trail. That's probably been the number one thing you've been doing. And have you found some? Have you been able to sign some players that will be helpful this year? Or are you looking long term with that?
Yeah, we have. You know, I mean, one of the things that we did with this class, like a lot of people in the country, is we addressed some depth needs, which is very important for us and for anybody. You know, scholarship limitations nowadays, 85 kids on scholarship, it sounds like a lot. But that's not enough, to be honest with you, because injuries, and I mean, this is a physical sport. Kids get hurt all the time. I mean, you may be the third string guy and be the first string guy the next week. I mean, it goes that fast. So developing that depth was important, and we were able to do that in areas like our offensive line, in the secondary. We lost some really good players in that secondary. I just had dinner with Corey Shepard last night. I recruited him when we were here before. Man, he was a receiver. And he's moved over, and he's probably going to play in the NFL as a defensive back. And we've got to replace some really good players, but that gives some other dudes some great opportunity there, and we were able to find some really good ones.
You mentioned today your program, your family, because you have 2 daughters that are engaged in different activities. It'll be fun to get them up here as well, I know.
Yeah, it will. You know, they've got a lot of great friends here. We've been here twice, so it's the great thing for that. When you relocate your family, it's always difficult. But we're coming back to Kansas, a place that they know. They're not starting from scratch. As a matter of fact, there's kids that they kept in touch with the entire time that we were gone to Texas A&M. So they are really excited to come back. They love the Jayhawks just as much as I do. You know, they've got 105 new brothers, and they're looking forward to meeting them.
Coach, in today's program, and some I know when you're making your trip, people drive hours to watch KU football. And I'd like to wrap up. And what do you expect them to see when they come to football, to the stadium this next year? What do you expect them, and why should they show up this time?
Well, the things that I want people to see and say when they leave our stadium is that those guys played hard, that they play as hard as anybody we've ever seen play out there on Memorial Stadium. Those guys represented us well. They played with class and integrity. They played within the rules, and they did things right. I want them to see a disciplined ball club, a team that can minimize hurting themselves, a team that can take advantage of the mistakes of other teams that come in there to Memorial Stadium. And then I want them to say, you know what, this is an exciting brand of football. I want to come back next week. I want to make that 4-hour drive again because, man, for 4 hours I felt like it was about to explode, and that's what we want it to be like.
Coach, I love your energy, and good luck making sure it happens with the rest of the KU team, and look forward to seeing you down at the games.
You bet. Appreciate you having us today.
Coach David Beaty has been our guest here on the Forum program on Eagle Community Television. It's brought to you by Hayes Med and by Eagle Communication, our community connected.
Hayes Med is your first and best choice for healthcare. They're the only facility providing tertiary level services in this region. With more than 70 physicians and 26 specialties ranging from heart, orthopedic, spine care, cancer, obstetrics and gynecology, wound care, rehabilitation and surgery, including the Da Vinci robotic surgery, Hayes Med is your comprehensive health provider for people throughout Western Kansas. Hayes Med, helping people be healthy.